All right, we're live.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining us live. I'm going to start off with a quick explanation why a little safety makes sense today. First off, I want to tell you I've never been a doom and gloom prepper. I am the kind of guy who'll pick up food off the ground and eat it, and was never worried about viruses or anything of that nature. What's led me down this pathway was seeing the Chinese stock market crash right after we signed a trade deal with no explanation. So things are not as they appear. And as you'll see in my presentation, there's a much smarter way to drive profits out of the market in this environment. And we don't need to be a hero and take on a whole lot of risks right now. So I'm going to go through the top concerns I have to start. Then we'll go through the trade alert to show you exactly how I'm positioning our portfolio. And after that, we will open up for Q&A. And so my job is primarily to predict the worst case scenario and make sure our investor groups are prepared for the worst. You're in your retirement, you cannot afford risk. You don't have new income to replace loss. So what Dean or I might make as an investment decision at the age of 35 is totally different than someone who does not have a new source of income to protect their assets and replace loss. So with that said, let's look at what's going on. My biggest fear is that the coronavirus is indeed a bioweapon designed to destroy America's single most important asset. It's not the stock market. It's not the government's massive debt bubble. It's the dollar. And there have been countries wanting to destroy the value of the dollar for a long time. So I'm not going to go through the history of that today, but I'm sure if you've done very much studying of the financial markets, you already know this. Here's what has me concerned. Mayor de Blasio of New York says they have 1,200 hospital beds out of 26,451 currently available. And if this virus is as contagious as I believe it is, and 5% of their population were to become sick, with 10% needing hospital beds, then you would have 43,000 people soon collapsing their hospital system. And this is just one example. If this is correct, the big panic is yet to occur. Here's a tweet from Mayor de Blasio, who, granted, hates Trump. Now, I'm not trying to play political favorites, just trying to protect capital, generate return. So sure, you got to take the caveat here is that this mayor does not like the current administration. We've been fighting this battle to test locally for 5 weeks. This is a total failure of leadership by the Trump administration and the CDC. From MSNBC, what we're seeing is just a colossal failure. The CDC created tests, sent them to all 50 states. Then after they arrived, they say, wait, the tests are flawed, don't use them. Meanwhile, the tiny country of South Korea is testing 10,000 people a day. You got to tell me, how does America not have the capacity to test for the virus, but South Korea does? We've gotten every conceivable warning about the coronavirus from health authorities across the country and globe. It's been coming like a freight train, and the Trump administration hasn't even done the basics. For the president of the United States to suggest the coronavirus might be a passing thing is profoundly irresponsible. Okay, so my comment, are they really that stupid? Maybe not. Maybe they very well know the virus has been here for weeks. It's spreading at rapid pace. And all that would happen if we did do these tests is create a massive panic, and it would expedite how fast the hospital system collapses. So that's the big risk we got to pay close attention to. So what would happen if this is the worst case scenario? Well, if 400 billion in mortgage loans to minorities that shouldn't have had a housing loan can cause a 50% crash in 2008, what would happen if 10% of the US stock market hit the sell trigger at the same time? That's $3.2 trillion. Well, folks, our balance sheet only has $4 trillion in it to date. They would have to literally double the Fed's balance sheet just to pick up 10% or just over 10% of the US stock market. Now, what happens if global stocks sell 10% at the same time? So what happens next? Almost without question, the Fed will be dropping rates to zero as GDP comes to a grinding halt. And even if this does not result in a lockdown in the United States, which could, just the simple fact that China is still in a lockdown, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Italy, other economies are coming to a grinding halt as we speak. So right now, the easy prediction is that bond yields go lower. But what happens if massive trillions of dollars flow into government bonds and push yields to zero or negative? At some point, investors are going to wonder how low can they go? And that's the critical moment when the world tries to dump these bonds that have 0% or negative yields. It would disrupt the bond market. Governments would be unfunded. We would have a huge problem. If you read the Fed minutes, they already are concerned about this and talk about it in every single meeting for the majority of their minutes. So what would they do? Likely the Fed would have to pick up the debt being sold and control the yield curve. That would mean the Fed's balance sheet could quickly and rapidly grow at the fastest pace in history. Now we're looking at $100 billion a month as being a large increase in the Fed's balance sheet. But if what I'm expecting to happen would occur, they may have to grow it at a rate of trillions of dollars in a very short time period. Now, what happens if you increase the supply of dollars at such a rapid pace? It would certainly weaken the dollar. Now, I believe this will happen to all currencies. So that's what I'm looking out for. We know that China and Russia do not like the dollar being the world reserve currency, and neither does anyone else. It gives us huge advantages over other countries. Now, is this an accident? Perhaps. Most likely, that's what this is. Simply high levels of pollution in China, overpopulation. Bill Gates has been predicting an epidemic or pandemic for the better part of a decade. But there is evidence to state that perhaps this was bioengineered. So the risk that this is an attack on America is something we should at least have in the top of our mind. And if I'm correct, and this does turn into a crisis in the health system, I would expect to see the US to declare war against China. Currently, Trump's saying President Xi is his best buddy and that he's doing everything he can to stop this crisis. So there's no confirmation of any of this, except for seeing the cases begin to rapidly spread in the United States. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders is running on a free healthcare policy for all, right when the hospitals could be on the verge of collapse. So I hope I'm wrong. My job is to figure out the worst case scenario and to ensure that we are absolutely protected. Now, another thing investors are asking about is, can the summer heat take out the virus? Well, there's just not a whole lot of places around the world that are warm through the night and daytime currently, but one of which is Singapore. Right now, Singapore only has 106 cases, which is significantly less than many other areas. Its temperature ranges between 78 Fahrenheit and 93 right now, and they have the premier healthcare system in the world, bar none. So if they can't keep this under control, that's bad news, and the hope that the summer heat can kill this virus will not be one to bet your money on. Can a vaccine be made? Well, right now they're telling us the vaccine will be ready as early as April of 2021. So that's a long ways away. Now, what's more concerning is the type of vaccine they are talking about currently building out right now. Normal vaccines take either a dead virus, which just don't work that well, or they are able to decode the RNA and the protein blueprint to create very specialized vaccines that are highly effective, but difficult to mass produce and spread. The current data I have on what they have developed appears to be something groundbreaking and potentially very dangerous. Still gathering information on this, but it sounds like the virus the vaccine they are creating is simply a weakened virus to essentially infect the patient, build the antibodies. This has to be tested, and that's why hopes of this coming out before next year are very small. So I'll keep a close eye on all that, but the short-term risk is that the healthcare system in New York, Florida, and California, as well as Washington State, become overwhelmed. Now, I've been watching Mark Rubio for hints, and he's been busy talking about Bernie Sanders and all sorts of jazz until 13 hours ago. Mark Rubio, it's not a question of if, but when confirmed cases of the coronavirus are found in Florida. We must provide accurate information on the best ways to prevent it from spreading and prioritize resources to help healthcare workers and elderly and those with pre-existing health conditions. March 1st for immediate release, City of New York. From the beginning, we have said it was a matter of when, not if, there would be a positive case of the coronavirus in New York. Now our first case has been confirmed. The patient contracted the virus during recent travel and is isolated in her home under close monitoring. Our health authorities have been in a state of high alert for weeks and are fully prepared to respond. We will continue to ensure New Yorkers have the facts and resources that they need to protect themselves. So the situation is clearly developing. Japan came in and bought $1 billion of ETFs this morning and gave the market a little bit of breathing room. But again, if 10% of the US stock market sold at once during a panic, that would be $3.2 trillion of sell orders hitting at once. That would be equivalent to almost the entire size of our Fed's balance sheet as of current. Okay, let's look at our trade alert. So the image says, last chance to get out, see how to profit safely. Is the government going to try to keep the stock market healthy as long as possible? Definitely, without question. Can they pull it off? Perhaps if there's not a healthcare crisis that spirals out of control. And right now, it's just too early to tell if that will happen or not. So our recommendation is to build a cash position, exit the SPY, and buy TLT calls for income. The next 4 weeks are critical. And there's no reason to be a hero and take on obscene risk. Right now, with the VIX very elevated, the cost to own the SPY with downside protection is extremely expensive. So some of the common questions we're getting already is what to do with that cash. Should we go all in on the TLT? No. Our recommendation is to have a cash position and be ready to buy the SPY at a great discount. Timing will be difficult and is highly dependent on whether our healthcare system gets bogged down and creates a crisis or not. The good news is if this is spreading as rapidly as it seems to be, we should know the answer in the coming weeks, not months, coming weeks. So our current trade alert is to exit the SPY and put option and hold a cash position. Now, if you're in our basic program, that's 100% of your capital that you're putting to use in the stock market. If you're a pro member, as you know, that represents 40% of your portfolio. So right now, again, I don't recommend being extra risky with the TLT, and I just simply recommend following the trade alerts as advised. The basic plan is to pile up call options on the TLT on our Monday, Wednesday, Friday trade alerts. And every time we see a big spike, and that is again, if we see a big spike in the TLT, we will dump these TLTs for the profit. So per Friday's trade alert, you already have a 3/20/20 TLT 157 call option per $30,000. Now, again, if you're new to the program, please do not take old trade alerts. Just follow the program as the trade alerts are issued. We are going to build up a small pile of these and then sell them at the opportune time. Meanwhile, we have a large cash position, and if what I am scared of does unfold, you'll be one of the few investors who have all of their cash safeguarded to buy the dip on the S&P 500. Okay, so how have we performed? Well, the S&P 500 is currently down 6.5%. It's bidding up today. It's had swings of 15%. And our SPY system, without anything else, just simply because we have put options to protect our assets at all times, has had no more than a drawdown of currently 2% in 2020. And so we've been able to guard the portfolio with extreme precaution. Now with these TLT call options, I do believe we can at least hit our 1% profit per month target and do so with extremely low risk. In our pro membership, many of you may want to consider upgrading that. Again, it's for investors with at least $75,000. We have actually generated a 1.18% return, which likely puts us in the 99th percentile of top performing investors in 2020. And that's without being an uber bear who lost money in 2019. There's lots of people who potentially made good money betting on a stock crash thus far, but did they have significant steady returns in 2019? Or are they just perma bears? In our program, we're not a perma bear. We're not a doom and gloomer. We don't want to scare everyone when it's not necessary. So the results do speak for themselves so far, and it is a great month to play it safe. Here's a look at the TLT ETF. TLT is not a company. It's not like the SPY. It's a play on interest rates. And it's the most leveraged, highly valued bond product in the world. It's the 30-year US Treasury. Soon it will also include the 20-year bond once they release that. So this is a very attractive product because if the Fed cuts interest rates, that will drive the TLT much higher. Now, what's the highest the TLT could go? That's something I'll be analyzing carefully because unlike the S&P 500, which really could go up forever, the TLT will have a limit based on how low yields could possibly go. And we're already at record low yields as of current. So for those of you in the pro program, as you know, I'm also buying put option protection for anyone who holds the underlying asset. In our basic program, where we normally trade the SPY, we're replacing these SPY trades with very safe, low risk, small call option bets on the TLT. Here's a look at today's new trade alert. And again, here's the put option we purchased that saved investors' butts this week. We had the 318 in the money put, and again, that did protect our SPY position. To buy that today, downside protection is expensive. Okay, the new trade alert is the same strike, one expiration duration further out. So we are buying the long 157 call expiring March 27th, and that's one option contract per $30,000 in your portfolio. So if you took the Friday trade, you now have two call options and a whole lot of cash on the sidelines, ready to pull the trigger when the time comes. In our buy and hold portfolio, we gave you an alert Sunday, which taught you how to use the future markets to essentially get out of the position early. If you missed that, you lucked out. The Bank of Japan did bid up the SPY, and you can get out for a higher price than I've put in my track record. And this does put you into a $300 cash position, ready to buy the SPY. You still have 2 shares of the TLT. You have 2 shares of GDX, 1 share of Yang, and then 44 extra in cash, which is related to our emerging markets position. So you have, this is a breakdown per $750 invested. Now the buy and hold portfolio does not use options. It's for investors who want a more passive system that rarely touches the portfolio. And now you can see the value of having options in your portfolio. So buy and hold's great if you have less than 30,000, but it's times like these where the option market is a very valuable asset to investors who want to protect capital and make safe profits. Okay, so that's a review of the trade alert. Let's go ahead and open up for Q&A now. And we have 52 people live. That is a new record. If you are listening and you missed out on the intro, just know that you can go back to the email, click that video link, and replay this from the start. If you do have questions, Ray, let's go ahead and do one audio at a time and carefully open up for Q&A, starting with Mark Stoley.
Okay, I guess I got at the front of the line. Thanks. So I just want to make a comment about the headline of the email that you sent. I mean, you said you're not a sensationalist and you're not a doom and gloomer, but that was a pretty sensational headline. And I think, you know, maybe a better headline would be, you know, last week was a wild ride. What's going to happen? Are we going to crash again this week, or is it going to rebound? Join us to find out. Would probably be a little bit better headline, but I know I was personally a little bit turned off by that headline, and one of my good friends who's thinking about becoming a member was absolutely turned off by that headline. Okay,
well, I appreciate the comment.
And you know, you hit, and I see what your theories are, and I think that they're a little bit sort of extreme, but I see that it's potential. I'm not going to argue with you on that, and you know, for all of our sake, I certainly hope that you're wrong. And I know how you approach things. You look at the potential extremes and you say, what if the worst case scenario? How do we prepare? And I certainly hope I'm wrong, but if I'm right, God forbid if I'm right, then, you know, hey, we're not going to be hurt.
Yeah, even if
do you
China
like the way you approach that
on purpose, that same outcome may be the result. So whether it was an accident or not, unfortunately, this likely is going to push our yields to zero, which puts the Fed in a horrible situation when everyone tries to sell their bonds, and is going to force us to print more money than we ever have in history, which will weaken the dollar. So yeah, it's sensational. But you got to ask, why is China telling us that they have 3,000 deaths when they probably have 60,000 from the flu?
Right, that doesn't make sense.
Over 60,000 flu deaths every year. But now they're trying to tell us they're shutting down China because of 3,000 coronavirus deaths. It doesn't add up.
I totally agree with you.
DD says she loves the headline. It depends on, so here's what I found, guys. And our audience has a lot of very, I don't know what the best way to say it is, but I'm talking to doctors, virologists, everyday people. And it's as if people don't want to be ridiculed and step outside of the social circle. So we're seeing the social circle slowly wake up. And what I've noticed is people are only willing to say something that everyone else is willing to say. And they're looking for their government to lead the way. And so we still have this mentality that, hey, this is nothing to worry about. And now they're slowly saying, well, maybe it is something to worry about. And so when people step outside of that social circle and say things like I have said, it causes you to question your reality, who you trust, and it's scary. So Sometimes my job is to be the alarmist. And again, I have never been an alarmist. I'm the guy who will pick up food off the ground and eat it.
Well, Jason, you had always said that you would never sell the SPY. We can't manage this with options, or you feel like it would be overwhelming to try?
So the only way we can own the SPY safely is if we buy a put option. But if the VIX is over $30,
You can't
the
buy.
cost for downside protection is extremely expensive.
Okay.
So I want to buy the SPY back when either the price is, basically I want to see if we're going into a lockdown and our health system's about to be overran. So within 30 days, we will clearly know if our health system's going to be overran or not. Oscar is in a very good position to know trouble before it happens, being an administrator in the healthcare field.
Hello, Jason. How are you?
Doing well. How are you doing, Oscar?
Okay. Basically, cautious is the best description of everything we're going through. I think I don't take the mayor of New York as any kind of an authority. He's just politicizing something that can only help his party. I think you have a lot of that here, and however, everyone's prepared to deal with this. I mean, I'm having to kind of lock down our masks and our protective gear because so much of it has been absconded with, physicians and nursing, and everybody wants it for their family, so they've been taking it away, and now we're having to put it under lock and key.
Oscar, let me ask you this. How many hospital beds do you have available in Florida at this very moment for sick patients, new sick patients?
New sick patients, a couple thousand.
Couple thousand. Okay. And if the new couple thousand patients coming in were highly infectious,
it would put a big challenge on us. No doubt about it.
Make everybody else sick. How many people do you already have in hospital beds currently?
Yeah, ideally, these patients would have to go into negative output rooms, basically where the oxygen just goes out rather than comes in. And bottom line is that would tax us quite a bit.
How many people live in Florida?
Oh, I wouldn't even begin to guess.
Yeah, so it would take 1,000 patients to overrun Florida right now. And unfortunately, these 1,000 patients would be highly infectious and so they'd have to start reorganizing everybody, and it'd be a disaster. So that's my concern, guys. In 30 days, we will know if the healthcare system is being overrun or not. So it's just really that easy to track. And now we got Mark Rubio. What's your opinion on Mark Rubio?
I know Marco from a long time back. It's mixed.
What do you think about this statement that came out 13 hours ago?
I agree. It's not a question of if, but when, and there's no denying that. However, we tend to sensationalize things. I see it every year when we have threats of hurricanes. Oh my God, it's coming down, and barely my lawn chair got knocked over by a wind, a slight wind gap. Now I'm not criticizing the preparation. We have to prepare. My fear is the great unknown, and that's what you're referring to. And I'm sitting there saying I have no idea, so I can't say whether you're right or wrong because I don't know.
I will have to tell you, Oscar, South Florida certainly is a lot more alarmist when it comes to hurricanes than Central Florida. Sorry.
Oh, absolutely, and we have reason to be. I mean,
think we haven't gotten hit because I certainly have personally. We had 3 in a row one year.
But the people get used to the preparation. I mean, do
Yeah.
we go crazy when we hear of the flu? No, of course not. We know how to deal with it.
Right.
But this is the great unknown. And until we get, like Jason says, I think it'll be a couple of weeks before we are able to at least measure this intelligently,
Mhm.
make decisions as to which way this is going to go.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm not-
the doctors can't even test for the virus. So you can't have a panic if you can't even test for it.
Exactly. Well, there's a lot
And
of
also, I'm hearing the test is $3,000. That's outrageous. That's absolutely outrageous. People are flying to South Korea to go get the test done for $50 and then flying back to save money.
Oh, that's lovely. Just
Yeah, and
what
then
we
getting
need.
sick along the way.
Right, and exposing everybody else to it. How brilliant.
Yeah, so I could be wrong. Sure, fine. But I don't think I'll lose any money. And that's what's important here. So if you want to be a rock star hero and buy the dip and, just close your eyes, go for it. But that's not what we're going to recommend. Some questions popping up. Why? Okay, Manny says, why not buy some SPY put spreads? Hey, Manny, we don't need to make life so complex, okay? We got a month to sit on our hands and see how this develops. We can buy some TLT call options with high confidence that they will generate return. And then we just sit back and relax. No reason to get complex with this.
And as far as all the other comments, I'm just going to say, this is what makes a marketplace, doesn't it? Everybody has different
the big
opinions.
threat, guys, is if a lot of people sold at once, all the money in China is not going to save this market.
I think Tony L's had his hand raised for a while.
Okay, go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just to clarify on the new call for the TLT. That based on your total portfolio per $30,000, or just the amount you had in the SPY per $30,000?
It's based on your SPY position that you used to have.
Right. So if you have, one SPY, 100 shares of SPY, you're only going to allocate then one call for that. Is that correct?
And that's correct, because we're going to be layering into this position Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So that helps us reduce the risk of timing. So let's say government wants to intervene and protect the stock market, which obviously they do. And Japan came in with $1 billion, 100 billion in their currency. It's about 1 billion in US. DD says her new TLT option is now up 5% already today. Yeah, so this is just a safe way to generate return in a time of uncertainty. So I'm sorry if I'm alarming you guys and making you question what you believe to be true. And I've been watching, I've been seeing extremely smart people who are doctors, pathologists. I've been talking to virologists. The virologist is really the one who's already ahead of the game on this, but mainly doctors are the ones that I'm most upset with, because they aren't questioning what's coming out of the top down right now.
I don't
know if they're gullible or what, but they can't test. If I were a doctor, I'd be scared to shit that I already was exposed to the virus. They can't even test themselves. Imagine if our doctors freak out and don't want to come to work. What's going to happen then?
Hey, Jason, one other question.
Yes, sir, please.
So if you have the $30,000 in the SPY and you have another $30,000 in the TLT, so would you do two of those options?
No, sir. You would buy, if you're following the pro program, This is only related to your equity cash position, which is now in cash. So I'm not trying to, So now somebody like Mark, he's been trading a while. He's taking the macro picture and he's adjusting it to be a little more risky than I am. And he's outperforming the service. So that's good for him. Unless you're really an expert trader, I wouldn't mess around with it. My goal is to help you get 1% a month with low volatility and protect capital for retirement.
27.
So you're going to see I'm very cautious to take on risk, and I'm patient. So my intention is to slowly build into this position, knowing very well that we're likely to see market manipulation. We're going to see central bank intervention. We're already seeing the government do everything they can to keep this as quiet as possible. So timing's difficult. Only thing I've been wrong about so far, guys, is that this is happening faster than expected.
Hey, Jason, this is Mark. I've got a question. So if I've got a portfolio that is not following your system, it's been pretty well diversified among bonds and stocks, and so a lot of it is in a bunch of stocks. And selling would create an unwanted tax consequence. That TLT recommendation seems to it gives you a little bit of a hedge, but it's pretty small compared to the potential loss.
The short answer, Mark, is it's absolutely impossible to safely protect that position right now without spending a fortune on put options that are overpriced. So if I were wrong and you went and bought this put, you're going to lose a lot of money on that downside protection. So yeah, the TLT, I think, will go up and it'll make some money almost without question. I mean, just the simple fact that China has been shut down for 5 weeks, going on 6, that alone most likely will cause everything that we need to happen to be in our favor for the TLT. What could go wrong? Well, we went over that. If China were to, so right now the US can get away with issuing about 30 billion a month on the long end of the treasury, which is where we currently have all our eggs parked on this TLT trade. And there's a tremendous demand for that small issuance every month. And the outstanding balance of that 30-year debt is passed around. But what would happen if everyone who had that position dumped it all at once? So that's the biggest concern for the TLT. So China has an awful lot amount of US treasuries. And if they did try to dump it all at once, that could be an issue. Now, the question is, if they did do that, when would they do that? Perhaps they would do it a little later, once everyone else would probably say, well, there's no more room for the TLT to go higher. Yields are close to 0. So yeah, what would I do with buy and hold? It's tough. Your opportunity to hedge at a discount is gone. So if you absolutely positively do not want to sell because you don't want to have the tax consequence, today may be your last chance to get a cheap put option. And I would look at a leap option to protect you for a full year. Potentially, I'll look at how to do that on tomorrow's update for our bootcamp folks. What leap option may make the most sense if you just absolutely positively do not want to sell your stocks and have to realize a tax consequence. Well, we got a little bit of a lucky opportunity to buy in some downside protection. It's going to be expensive.
And Jason, while you're talking about the tax consequences, Mark and Oscar, I actually just sent you all links to set up with the firm that we've partnered with at this point. They're actually specifically going to, our interaction with them is going to be helping investors basically reduce your tax consequence as much as humanly possible. And it's basically a a really respected firm that I've actually had 3 of our clients directed me to. Yeah, set up a call with Clint from that link that we sent to you, and talk with them, see if it makes sense to set something up to where you just really won't get hurt with their help, selling out of some of the other positions. Okay.
I'm looking at the put options right now, really quick, guys. I'll tell you which one might make sense and cover you through how long this could take to be resolved. And we'll see what kind of cost it would be. And meanwhile, let's get who wants to ask the next question while I look up this, the put options that are available.
Got one from Kathy in the chat box.
Ash says, I did sell the SPY and have cash. If I were to buy a call option, does this not mean that I must first buy the TLT and then buy the call? Otherwise, it would be a naked option. So Ash, option writing is what's risky. That's where you're essentially the bank loaning money out, whether it's loaning stocks or loaning cash. And that's referred to as being short. So anytime we are short, we want to be very, very careful about how we go about that. This trade alert is a long call option. So the only thing at risk is the $300 per option contract that you invest today. So the answer is, I'm not sure which program. Are you following the basic program that just trades Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Or are you trading our pro program where we also trade on Thursday?
So Jason, he said the basic, and Ash was on a trial for the SPY.
Great. So yeah, Ash, your job is so easy right now. You hold cash. Andy says, is there a pro trial? No, but we do have a bonus that gets you into the pro for a period of time when you do upgrade a free trial. And the only difference in the basic program and the pro is that we put half your money into bonds and stocks with ETFs and protect with downside puts. There are inverse ETFs on the SPY. In our boot camp, I'll be making speculative bets that the stock market could crash. And I would not use an inverse ETF to do that. That's really, inverse ETFs are for people that just don't understand how to just do it themselves. So on Tuesday, tomorrow, anyone in our boot camp, expect a very, very aggressive bet that we do have a market crash, and it will use a very small amount of capital and potentially return 10,000%. So again, anything speculative, high risk that requires a lot of attention and explanation will be done on Tuesdays for boot camp members. So if you want to get into the boot camp, call Dean. But for the normal program, guys, I'm not trying to. Speculative trades require patience. They often lose money until an event happens. And if that event doesn't happen, you lose 100%. Okay, so with the trial everyone's on, where we trade Monday, Wednesday, Friday, my goal is to have extremely high win rate with very low risk, trading the most obvious trade we can possibly find. Okay, so that's what I found not only makes the most sense for most investors, that's also how we gain your trust and get you to stick with the program for a long period of time. Almost everyone who comes into the Monday, Wednesday, Friday trade and does well ends up realizing it does make sense to upgrade to the pro program so that they can further diversify their portfolio into uncorrelated assets. But all of a sudden, you're going from a world where you like to buy stocks to having to understand what on earth is a bond. Why would I buy a bond? What is a bond? So it's a learning curve, and it makes sense to just do baby steps. The trades I'm giving you now are designed to safely make 1% a month. Simply put. So if you're on a free trial right now, We're holding cash. We're waiting to see if the hospital systems break down. And we're buying call options on the TLT. I'll be timing when to sell them and also be on full alert when I think we can go along the SPY. I love the SPY. I designed this whole system specifically to take advantage of the SPY. So I can't wait to get you guys back into the SPY. Let me look at what put options available to protect someone who just cannot sell their equities right now. And so a lot of people are wondering, well, how long is this going to last? That answer you're really not going to like. Let's see, next question while Dean, can you just look up what, let's see, what are we at? Let's say a 290, fine, or Mark, maybe you could do that. Go look up what would a 290 SPY put cost with the longest duration possible. We're looking at a 2-year leap. So that's probably what I would buy is the 2-year leap.
This is Mark. There's a December 16th, 2022. That's 1,019 days away. And that's 290 put is 35.38.
35.38.
On the ask.
So you're going to give up $45 to have protection for 2 years.
Ooh, that's expensive.
That's expensive, yeah. The chance to have cheap protection is gone. So it's kind of like, buying insurance after the fire's already started on your house. It costs a lot. So Steve says, what was the software you guys were using to show risk graphs? I would use Thinkorswim to do that. And then you can call their support and they'll walk you through how to do it. It's free. These guys charge like $250 a month for this, and it's not even as good as Thinkorswim, which is free. So yeah, I'm not gonna even recommend that platform. I've stopped doing that. But yeah, call Thinkorswim, tell them whatever it is you want to model, and they'll work you through it A to Z. And they can model out anything for you right away. It's a really nice platform. So you will need the desktop platform and not the iOS if you want to really have complete.
Awesome, Steve.
So I'll show you the website just so you can check it out.
Okay. Yeah. And guys, just real quick, literally every single online brokerage account out there offers that same risk graph software. It's already built into their program. You just have to basically figure out how to get to it. But literally every brokerage I've ever, the 3 that I use all have them. And every other account I've ever looked at with a buddy of mine or a family member has those risk graphs as well.
That's
so
a good question. I'll dedicate some bootcamp content to how to design those in Thinkorswim so that everybody can play around with that and learn how to do it. It's not too hard and certainly useful. Dan O'Connell has a question. Go ahead, Dan.
I just typed it in the chat box, but I'm just trying to imagine what would make the TLT go down in price. I can play the devil's advocate easily on the TLT. Okay. Okay, so number 1. Raising interest rates. So yeah, you always got to play devil's advocate with your own theories, right? So the simple answer is rainbows and ponies is what would make the TLT go down. Money. So China's reporting no new cases and that the whole problem is fixed. Right. So if the problem's fixed, everybody else got another month of problems and they can be fixed as well. That's 1. 2, inflation. If we start getting price inflation, the Fed is supposed to hike rates. If they hike rates, TLT will crash. Number 3, if we were under attack by foreigners, they simply sell their bonds all at once. That could cause yields to spike.
So there's 3 simple ways we get a crash in the TLT. To summarize, 1, if coronavirus is overblown, China's reporting the truth. There's no new cases. Everything's fine. They're going to be back to work. Right. Rainbows and ponies. That TLT will tank. SPY will fly high. Okay, that's 1. 2, inflation. If we get too much inflation, the Fed's supposed to hike. The Fed could even use interest rate hikes as a weapon. Okay, so we may be willing to protect the dollar and crash the bond and stock market to take out enemies. That'd be the single most powerful move the US could make if we were in some sort of currency war. Hike interest rates, you will crash every currency around the globe. And then 3, if foreigners sold treasuries at the same time, at a rapid pace, that could also cause a interest rate spike. So a call option is great because we only lose the investment. And in our pro program, even though I don't see that happening right now, we own a put. We're protected. So it makes it harder. It makes it harder for me to deliver. People don't understand how attractive this track record is because you may not necessarily realize how protected we've been every step of the way. We're bulletproof, 100%. Because in our pro program for your TLT, you've got a put. Okay, Murray's got a good question. I now hold many more TLT call options than 1 per 100 shares of TLT and a huge setting of outsourced international logistical chains. Now people can't. Oh, wait, sorry, I had Steve's question pop in. Okay, Murray has a question. I now hold many more TLT call options than 1 call per 100 shares of TLT and a huge amount of cash from the sale of SPY and cash from any other accounts that was closed. Okay, so yeah, so Murray, let's talk about, I don't want to give away our pro program too much, but I'll just summarize what your portfolio should look like. He's in everything. He's got our boot camp. He's got our pro. He's been following for a long time. He's been doing a great job. 40% of your total assets are in cash. 10% is also in cash, but it is designated for shorting emerging markets. We're doing that with a cheap put option. So you have around half your money actually in cash right now if you're accurately following our program. You have another 40% in the TLT, which is protected with a put. And our only risky position without a put option downside protection is GDX. But again, if we're going into massive printing and lowering interest rates, I'm not super concerned about volatility in gold. Now, once again, what would be a nightmare for gold? 1, if we were to hike interest rates, which seems unlikely, but again, it could be a way to weaponize the dollar against other currencies. So currently the only asset we do have unprotected is GDX. So again, you should have 40% cash ready to buy the SPY. The TLT call options are not related to your TLT position. They're related to your SPY position. So does that make sense, Murray?
It does. Should I be getting more put protection on TLT though?
You already have a put for every 100 shares of TLT, so it'd be unnecessary.
Yes. Okay. Got it. So now
Okay, Steve has a question and a comment. I ran an international group for 15 years. 20 years ago, we tripped all over ourselves setting up outsourced international JIT logistical chains. Now people can't pull these back fast enough. It started even before this. Unfortunately, in 20 years, we forget wash and rinse. Yeah, I agree. Rocky, please, your turn for a question or comment.
Hey,
Okay.
Jason, this is Mark. Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
so I'm looking at the various SPYs, kind of going back to my earlier question, how to protect a current stock portfolio. And based on what you're saying and the speed of which this is unfolding, it would seem like we ought to really know where things are going to be by the end of this month, meaning March 31st. And so I'm looking at a March 31st, $10 out of the money strike, and that's about 730 right now. And so that seems like a little bit more affordable type of coverage to see what might happen. That gives you basically a $17 deductible on your $300 value SPY, you know, assuming that the stock portfolio is reasonably worth the same thing as if that entire amount were all in SPYs anyway. So I'm kind of looking at it that way, even though it's not. So that's a $17 deductible on an all-out absolute market failure. Otherwise, you're giving up seven.
Right, Mark, which expiration were you looking at?
The March 31st, that's 29 days from now.
And which contract were you interested in?
The SPY, $10 out, 294.
Okay.
I think you're looking, which one are you looking at?
See, am I on the? Puts are going to be below.
Looks like it keeps showing you March 2nd. I don't know why. And it would be out of the money. Oh, this does look like.
Here's our puts.
I think the option
Right,
chain and
it's
POS
flying
is a
around on
lot
me.
easier
There
to
we
look at.
So it's right there, right?
It looks like the one. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, I guess that second column is the quote time.
Yeah,
That's kind of
so
confusing
about
chain to look at.
745 for the 294.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so let's say you buy that and we're wrong. You probably pay that off, you know?
Yeah, so your break even is going to be $17 drop from where basically we are today.
Yeah, so if you bought that put today, and I'm right, you know, you have some protection. And if I'm incorrect, you probably will pay off the put with appreciation and then some. So it's not a terrible idea. But, you know, then in March, you'll be back to the same question. Do I want to realize I guess if you follow it low enough, you won't be up so much and you'll have less tax obligation, but your put option will have the gain in it.
Yeah.
So the real question is, you know, if you did want to hold, how long could we potentially have drawdown for? And so now, you know, now we're trying to predict what's the impact of this virus, and when are we going to fix it? When are we going to fix the underlying problem that we're dealing with? This event that's caused this crisis? So then the only hope that I see, yeah, okay, so number one, if we have to copy what China has done, that involves shutting down the economy. So if they have to do that to fight the virus, then stock market's definitely going to crash. Okay, so that's one. Two, maybe they don't do what China did, just let it spread slowly as possible. Seems to be what they want to do if they can. They're hoping they can. But this does seem to be spiraling out of control right now, so I'm not sure if they can do that. So the next thing is, well, the only hopeful thing I've seen, at least, that could save markets right now, it would be the summer months. The heat kills the virus. Okay, but if that's the case, then we got to ask ourselves, why are there 100? Have you guys seen videos of Singapore? Has anybody been to Singapore? It is the single most high-tech, advanced country in the world.
And cleanest.
Cleanest, best healthcare system. I mean, they are so ahead of the game. The
I know
temperatures
someone.
go to a low of 78 and as high as 93. And they have 106 reported cases so far, which is low, but they still have cases. Manny, so two things will cause markets to rebound during this crash that I am expecting. Number one is that people who write put options, when they lose, are forced to buy the SPY. Okay, so every put option that gets written, if it goes underwater, has to be covered by buying the SPY. So that does provide some buying on equities. The question is, will they hold or are they going to dump it right after they have to cover? That's one. Two, Bank of Japan last night said they're going to try their best to stabilize markets, but this comes at the risk of devaluing their currency. So they came in with $1 billion ETF buy order today. But again, that's nothing, $32 trillion in the stock market. If 10% sell at once, that's 3.2 trillion. If 1% sell, that's 3 billion. So it seems like right now, maybe around 1% of people are waking up trying to sell. And that simple $1 billion injection seemed to do the trick today. But what's going to happen when Oscar's hospital system in Florida can't house all the sick people? He only has 1,000 beds ready. China has been rushing to build hospitals as fast as they can. Yet they say they have 3,000 deaths. So that doesn't add up. What's the US government saying with their budget plans? Well, they started off with a $2.5 billion budget, with 1 billion going to a vaccination. Now they're talking about 10 billion. If you listen, they're saying, you know what, we're going to throw everything we need to at this with no budget restriction. So you don't hear them throwing $10 billion at the flu. Kathy C., your turn.
I was wondering if you could put up your chart on TLT just to show the possible high points and low points.
Sure. Let me grab my iPad. I'm going to keep the audio over here, Ryan, and then just share the iPad visual. Let's see if that will work. That always messes. I'll just pull it up on here. Okay, so if we want to predict what the, oh, Henry says, sounds like there's still confusion on today's trade. So we are already holding a TLT call from the trade on Friday, so we don't want to add to the TLT to cover all. No, yeah. So Henry, let's read the trade alert here. It's really careful to follow the instructions, especially during risky times. So existing members sell the SPY and put option and hold a cash position. Step one. Step two, hold your trade alert from Friday. Okay, so if you missed that trade, don't take it now. Step three, add a second call option. So you now have 2 call options on the TLT. We will exit all of them during the next panic when we see a spike in the TLT. Okay, so once we realize that the TLT is not a stock like a company and it's an interest rate play, the next question you really got to ask yourself is how high could the TLT possibly go? And this is a relativity question. We're already at the lowest yields we've ever had. Okay, so we've never had yields this low in the history of America. Right now, let's see where our 30-year treasury's at. Okay, so that 30-year is at about 2%. So we went from 3.38 at a recent high in October. That's when they were hiking rates. This is what caused the last stock crash right here. And we've lost 1.4 on the yield. So let's see what kind of, so that took the TLT up from 112 to 155. So that's about a $40 move on the TLT. So if we assume this could make a similar move, so we go from 3.38 to 2, so that's a 1.4 move. So if we drop down to below 1% on the treasury yield, if we had a similar move from here to here, that would mean this has to go down to about 0.6, which would be insane. That would push us above 200. That'd push us at 195. Is that possible? Well, if China stays shut down, Germany shuts down, so if the whole global economy has to shut down because everybody's scared they're going to get sick, I think you could see a similar move. Now, that's if basically all the hospital systems around the globe break down and we have a total collapse in global GDP. So I'd say, without speculating, that our 30-year treasury can go into negative territory like Germany's did last year, that we could ride this easily to 175 and then start getting pretty precautious up towards 200. And we go to negative rates on the 30-year treasury, then it could go higher, but that's speculative. And the best indicator would be to watch the German yield. So the lower the German yield goes, the lower ours could go. Henry says, so do we want to add the TLT trade to cover all of our cash position? Yeah, so the TLT is not covering your cash position. We have the cash ready to buy the SPY once I feel there's not a huge risk in the market. And I believe I'll know that within 30 days or less. And the problem is, this is all unfolding faster than expected. I didn't think we'd have a US death until around March 7th to 14th. We already had the first one this weekend. And it was from somebody who didn't even go to China, who's in their 50s. So my big fear now is that we have more deaths and the hospital systems become overran. And the focus of my attention is watching the healthcare system in New York, Florida, California, and Washington State. So yeah, we're looking at how low could this yield go. We're in a weird environment where governments are pushing yields below zero. And if you listen to Trump, he says he wants yields below zero. Not that he controls that, but Tony L, go ahead.
Should we put a good to cancel closing order in on them TLT calls? That's based on what your expectation is.
I will issue a sell alert for the entire batch when the time comes. So right now it's just pick up your call options, keep your cash ready to buy the dip, and that's it. There's going to be some easy trading for you guys right now. Nothing complex necessary to do really well right now. And if I'm right, we'll start seeing deaths pop up all over the US. We're going to see healthcare systems get overran. And if I'm wrong, I still think the TLT goes up just because China and the rest of the world's been in a shutdown. It's going to hurt GDP.
Jason, I think one of the real benchmarks to watch is going to be that nursing home in Washington State, where they had 50 suspected cases, and see just how impactful it is to that crowd, because one of my concerns has been that if this does spread, and there's no doubt it will enter nursing homes and assisted living care facilities, and that's the most vulnerable demographic, and that could wipe out their tenancy, and that kind of a tenancy loss could cause some substantial financial hardships in that sector that would bleed over to other sectors.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, I'm watching it like a hawk. So really, guys, the best data we have right now is let me just pull this up so I can bullet point it for you guys. The best case study we have as of current, and I'll just bullet point it because I got this memorized. It's probably worse by now. This was as of a few days ago. Princess Cruise, 3,600, probably mostly older, stuck in a small space, signs, it spreads in the air. All right. 706 infected. That's 18% rate, or 1 out of 5. 5 dead. So over 1% of total cruise population already dead. All right, so weaker immune systems, highly clustered.
That 5 dead is 1%, less than 1% of the infected.
Right.
Of infected. Yeah, good point. My mistake.
I have a question for Oscar when you're done with that, by the way.
Go ahead.
Hey, Oscar, I was just, I just muted myself a little bit ago, listening to the top of the hour, the local news up here, because I missed the Governor DeSantis's his press conference. I guess he had it around 10:30 or so, and I think there might be another one coming up in an hour. I'm not sure, but I guess they were giving some statistics, and they're talking about quote unquote presumed infected, and I guess they're using that based on the fact that they've got symptoms and because of their recent travel. And I guess now they've got what did I see? About 182 people on self-quarantine. So they're waiting for test results from the CDC. I'm just curious if that's accurate, or if, or what you know.
Well, I don't know if it's accurate or not, but
okay.
We have yet to see our first.
Okay.
And I've got a lot of beds. I mean, I got facilities with that are big facilities.
Right.
We would
How
have
far
been,
north?
we
How
would
far
have
north
been
is it?
told on Friday. We had a meeting with the CDC. We discussed certain things, procedures, what is going to be the communication, those kind of things, and we have yet to see one. I mean, we've suspected some, but they turned out to be everyday flu type stuff.
Okay, so far the two that they're really thinking it's Hillsborough County, which just for everybody else, it's Tampa, and Manatee County. So that's not your region, is it?
No.
Okay.
We're east.
All right. How far north does your territory run? Just out of curiosity.
Or St. Lucie.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Huh. Only because I'm gonna try to listen for the the Central Florida, both East Coast, West Coast type stuff, because you're so ingrained in the South Florida. I can rely on you for all that because you're in the middle of it all.
I'm very apprehensive about this, and
Yeah.
Obviously everyone should be, but at the same time, it just doesn't make sense that we haven't seen a single thing yet.
Right.
And that that leads my antennas to go up, and that's not to say it's not coming. I'm not disagreeing with Jason. You know, I have no evidence to show that what Jason's talking about is wrong. Until I see evidence to the contrary, I got to believe all situations.
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't know what we don't know yet. We, you know, this, what is it? The known unknown, right? Isn't that where we're at this point?
Yeah, pretty much.
The death rate is going to trail the infection rate by probably 1 to 2 weeks. So the best thing to do with incoming data, guys, is take your infected count from 1 to 2 weeks ago and then compare it to the current death rate.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a better real-time understanding of what the mortality rate is. So yeah, it's not good. The data from the cruise ship is very alarming.
Well, yeah.
Best case.
But I'll just let y'all know, I just got an, because I take care of my mother's situation. You know, she's in an independent living facility, but it's one of the largest ones in Florida, that they have mostly assisted living, and they have, you know, all levels of care in different facilities. There's like 25 different ones. And I just got a memo from them about 2 hours ago, specifically stating that there's no cases in the state of Florida, period, at this point. But of course, giving
because
everybody,
there's no test kits. Yeah, you can't have cases if you don't have test kits.
well, right, but this was going simultaneously with what the press conference that Governor DeSantis had too. So, you know, I'm kind of watching this to see who's saying what, when, where, and how. I'm just stating specific facts that I have, you know, and just, I don't know. It's just interesting to see what they are saying to the public at this point. You know, and all they're really doing, if I look at this, is giving, you know, Q&A, frequently asked questions on what to do. And if you get any symptoms, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And, you know, yeah, I mean, they want people to be, it's just like hurricane, like we were talking about before. It is kind of like hurricane, preparedness. But in this case, we know it's out there versus in a hurricane, you know, we kind of have a couple of days to prepare. This one, we don't really know. And I think it's kind of interesting just to see the, you know, I mean, while you're talking, Jason, because, you know, I think this thing's there's more going on than we know, you know. Who knows who is better, you know, able to, you know, walk around without having real, I mean, it's allergy season down here too. So, I mean, I'm sneezing because of the oak pollen, but I'm not sick, you know. So, you know, I can get you know, people will turn around, look at everyone's a little freaked out right now, but nobody really knows what's what at this point. It's just interesting to see this whole dynamic play out. And, you know, yeah, I think it's a wait and see. It's a little freaky though.
Yeah, almost no matter what has already occurred will cause TLT to go higher in the short term.
Right, exactly. So I'm protected. Thank you.
Whether you want to believe all the doom and gloom and conspiracy theories or not, doesn't matter. There's enough facts that we should be concerned. Play it safe. The next 30 days will be very telling. The only thing I've been wrong about so far has been how fast this would happen. I was expecting first death to be around March 7th to the 4th. I thought by March 7th, we'd have cases overwhelming the hospital, and March 14th, we'd have deaths. And we got our first 2 deaths already. So,
well, but you have to be cautious about doing that. I mean, these people had underlying conditions already. So they had a weakened immune system. They had respiratory issue or whatever they had, you know, so you have to be careful how you're determining when you're, you know, that's because, I mean, it's a biological situation. There's no perfect scenario in biology. Okay. We are all a little bit different. So
yeah, what is clear is those that are immune suppressed and
right.
have pre-existing respiratory issues, which is a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's also a lot of people who control a lot of money.
Exactly. And what we're seeing, at least speculating, at least what is over in China. I mean, you have a lot of people with respiratory disorders. I mean, there's smog and they're their smoking rates and
Oh, yeah.
are way above ours.
Mhm.
And so therefore, what is accurate from what they're providing us, but there's no doubt it's going to have an impact on us if it penetrates us like we're hoping it doesn't.
And I think I mean, and I hate to bring in the financial side of this thing, but it's not just the market as a whole. Look at and boy, Oscar, I mean, I may be treading on thin ice here, but look at what happened to companies like, what was it, Gilead, right? I mean, now they're on the potential precipice of maybe finding out something again, but look at the last time they solved a problem. All the others got a little irritated because there's no money to be had just for, helping to try to mitigate, I don't know. I just don't think there's as much money in the system to be had by solving some of these diseases versus just managing them. I hate to say it, but that's an old opinion I've had for a long time.
That's the model of biotech at this point, Karen. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You don't want to, if you solve it, it's too good. So.
Yeah. I mean,
So here's an alarming thing. So a lot of people want to say, well, it's the smokers causing the problem. And
I didn't say that.
No, you didn't say that, but people doing the data. So the chance of getting sick for a male and female are just about equal in China from what they've reported, which fine. The mortality rate is almost twice as bad for the males. So it appears almost no females smoke in China.
They smoke every day.
Smoke doesn't mean you won't get infected, but maybe you can beat it. So that is a good sign. But yeah, it's about not quite double, but almost double the mortality rate reported for males versus females. So that's, but yeah, all the people tracking this closely have been pulling up this chart for quite some time. And so, yeah, we do have, not only do we have less pollution in the United States, less population density, better sanitation. I don't know if we have better diet, probably not. We have a slightly lower smoking rate. Interesting that the females smoke at a higher rate here in the United States than in China, according to the stats.
My only argument with that, Jason, is that their industrial production make them all smokers.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the silver lining for the United States that maybe saves us is one, we're more spread out, two, less pollution. And so if this is maybe that's our saving grace. We'll know in 30 days or less at this point.
Okay, and Dee Dee has a question in the chat box, Jason.
Okay, let me check it out. Ask the docker, is there a real test or just a process? Yeah, they have they have tests for sure. Looks like just doing CT scans on the lungs is the fastest way to spot out who's.
Emailed you all that stuff.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, we just had some background noise coming
Yeah,
from.
it's just background.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Dee Dee, they can easily tell if you're highly likely to have it or not with some scans in the chest, which they can get instant results on. So yeah, if we really wanted to be trying to figure out who has this and isolate them, we could be doing that. But clearly, our government does not want that to be a priority yet. And I can understand why. What would happen if President Trump came on TV, told everyone that there's a virus that's been spreading in the United States for 6 weeks. It's highly contagious without any symptoms. It has an R0 of 6. Well, I'll tell you what will happen. Everybody with a little bit of a runny nose who has a low education and doesn't understand how viruses spread, they're going to rush to the doctor's office to get checked. The hospitals will become overran overnight. The virus will spread much quicker and everything would be far worse. People are going to be scared to go to work. The economy collapses. Okay, I get it. All right, it's easy to explain why they don't want to create a panic. So my job is to be able to understand when things don't add up and to protect your money. So whether you want to be a doomer gloomer or a conspiracist or not, fine, but I can show you this does not add up. Time to play it safe, be smart, and follow the program. So yeah, I've been watching. The most fascinating thing of all of this for me is to watch extremely intelligent people start to question what they've been told and to be cautious to step outside of the social circle and what's popular to say at that point in time. Being the outsider outside of your social norm puts you in a very awkward place where you're ostracized, made fun of. If you're not right, you're going to look like an idiot. But we're seeing that tune slowly change. So the way we're set up, we're risking very little money. We have some call options of $300 a pop now. So you've got 2 call options that cost you $300 a pop per 30K. So for every 30 grand I've advised you on, you have $600 total at risk, and we're already making money on it. And we're set up to buy a dip. If there's something bad that happens, you're going to be one of the few people with cash ready to buy a dip. Okay. If I'm wrong, well, we should know pretty quickly, one, and I'll be very happy to jump back into the SPY. And the effect of all this, guys, is probably rates going lower, probably some QE coming in. So don't worry about it. We're going to make tons of money owning equities when it's not so risky. So what's happened so far is probably going to create a whole lot of money printing and make the relative value of stocks go up in time. But the question is, are we about to shut down the economy because we have an infectious disease that's impossible to stop? And every single thing I've found tells me that this virus is highly contagious and it simply cannot be quarantined because it spreads without symptoms. And there are tens of millions of people who flew through China, for heaven's sakes, during the outbreak and have since left China. We've got cases in Brazil, probably from their Chinese soccer team, who just went over there to play a game and came back.
Of course, then you have a Korean Airlines flight attendant. I mean, it's always a flight attendant's fault.
I've always said that.
Wise guy.
So look, guys, I'm not kidding. I'm the guy who would give my kids a hard time about being scared of germs and eating food off the ground, okay? I don't spend time prepping. Never done that before. Just always, I'm going to boost my immune system. I'm badass. I go running every day. I eat healthy. I'm not scared of anything. Never in a blue, I would have never guessed that we'd be worrying about a global pandemic in 2020. But the data I have to work from tells me that this virus spreads without detection because it is highly contagious without any symptoms, and that the mortality rate and complication rate is relatively high. And then I can simply look at how many hospital beds we have available. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that there potentially are a greater number of sick coming in than we have room for. Meanwhile, China is rushing to build hospitals at record pace and telling us that the problem's completely over in China and there's no new cases. And in fact, they have the balls to tell us that there's 3,000 deaths. Okay, so if we have 7,000 deaths in January in the USA of the flu, I would presume they had 30,000 flu deaths in China. And that has happened every year for the better part of a decade. And we've never had a stock market crash or a shutdown of the second largest economy in the world because of that. So they're trying to tell us that 3,000 deaths in 2 months, which is at least 1/10, maybe even less, of what they had from the flu, is going to cause them, one of the most greedy groups of people in the world, are going to give up $1 trillion a month. So now you got to think about intention. Why on earth would China shut down? Why is China shut down? Why are the schools closed? Why are they rushing to build hospitals? Okay, so you just got to ask yourself those questions, and you won't find an answer that is suitable. So that's why I'm concerned, and we're playing it safe.
Hey, Jason, just real quick too, I just caught this on Twitter, but and this came from CNBC or NBC, I'm sorry. But it says, and this is from Dr. Fauci, but he said U.S. may have to consider social mitigation acts like temporary closing schools and events with large crowds in confined spaces. So yeah, that just
My kids are home from school today, and my garage is stocked up with goods. I think it's already globally spread. So my best advice is be precautious, be paranoid, and get your immune system up. Our client base are primarily the highest risk people. So this is not a health advisory. But just realize that this very well may be spread through America already. And if so, right now is a great time to do everything you can to keep your health as healthy as possible, and realize the hospitals are going to be where there's the most risk of getting the virus in a heavy dose, unfortunately. I mean, everything in the hospitals, these poor doctors, their pins, their lab coat, their stethoscope.
I was going to say that.
Jake. Masks, the sink, the things they use to wash, everything is a potential contaminant.
He's getting excited. We'll have to get his English straightened out.
Oh my Lord.
We're teasing you, Jason. We love you.
Yeah, Steve says guns, ammo, scotch, and medicine. Yeah.
There you go.
Very nice, Jason. Okay, guys, any other questions out there?
Thanks for the news and the education, Jason.
My pleasure, Oscar. I hope we don't have a big poor Oscar's going to have a lot to deal with if I'm correct here. So I hope this doesn't happen and this all blows over.
Well, my wife's still holding a gun
MES has
to
a question. Go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead, Oscar. Sorry.
Yeah, my wife's still holding a gun to my head because we got vacation plans in Milan.
Oh gosh. Yeah, Murray just got back from Hawaii.
This just became my problem, like I invented this virus.
Well, when are you planning to go there, Oscar?
Late June.
Well,
at least it's summertime, so that's positive.
Yeah, hopefully we turn up the heat a little bit.
I'll get you whatever info I can. I got that heads up about the Milan flights, obviously, because that's my former company. So, and I have my best girlfriend actually works that trip. She's from that region over there, a little east. She's a little closer to Venice, so her family's in the midst of all this stuff, but just on the outskirts of it. So I'll let you know what I hear.
Is that Steve Lane that's posting in the chat? I can't see the last name. He says, if I'm missing one day, please come and get my dog. You got it, Steve. Now that's another thing that's odd. They're now finding dogs are being confirmed with the COVID-19. That's not normal. So usually I'm going to do a lot more. I'll try to get us an expert who has better credentials to make any sort of analysis of of how odd this virus is, what it is. But I can just tell you from the economic data, China being shut down is a big problem. That fact alone is all you really need to know. And until they're back to full throttle, bond market's probably going to get some good cash coming towards it. MES, you have a question with your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Yes, this is a question for Dean. Dean, are we still going to speak at roughly 1:30 Eastern time or Central time?
Yeah, let me double check my schedule, but I think we should be good. Yes, and I will send you an email confirmation on that to reserve the time, Michael.
All right, thank you.
And Jason, just real quick, Michael currently has thousands of clients, management between 60 to 150 million. So institutional type client on here today, listening in. So.
Wow. Well, hey, hats off to you. Pleasure to work with you.
Sure.
So Michael, I have a good friend of mine is a financial advisor. He came over for dinner on Friday and he said it was probably the most stressful week he's had in the past decade or so. Were you feeling similar conversations?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, hey, at least Bank of Japan gave you a little time to prepare today.
Indeed, yes. All right, thank you. This was very, very informative, Jason.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Murray's got his hand raised. You want to unmute him, Ryan?
Okay. Yeah, can we trust Apple's assertions that they reopened their facilities in China, or what percentage are really open?
Apple's in cahoots with cheap labor, which is organized by the CCP. So I would be more interested in seeing the imports, exports, and kind of electricity. So there's some external factors we can watch to see if China's really at full throttle. I don't care if Apple's open their stores or not. They could turn on the lights. That doesn't mean anybody's going to go buy things.
But how about the Apple factories, the assemblers for
the Foxconn?
Apple? Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what China's going to face here soon. The knee-jerk reaction is, hey, slow down the spread of the virus, go to your house, go to lockdown. Okay. That works for a month. And then we run out of food and we run out of money. So now you're asked to either starve to death or go to work and risk getting sick. I'm going to bet these Chinese get back to work and we potentially get a wave 2. A good homework assignment for everybody is go watch a couple hours of documentaries about the Spanish flu. Multiple waves. It lasted 2 years. Okay. So if you're asking me how long could this last, I would say it could last at least a year. Is the heat going to be a saving grace? Maybe for a few months. Gary Barber says, which brokers have you guys been recommending? I need to jettison Robinhood. I've been emergency status trying to place trades with them today. I believe their servers are down. Oh man, that's not good. Yeah, I would use Ameritrade. And in our boot camp, we also show you how to use Thinkorswim platform, especially if you want to learn how to do those P&L models. I'm going to actually make sure we do cover it because it is fun to be able to see visually what your maximum P&L is.
Hey, and Gary.
So yeah, I would do Ameritrade for sure, Gary. That's a really good broker and a very good cost, great support. Even during this panic, I was able to get their people on the line in about a 30-minute wait time, which is not bad, when you have something like this coming on. Kathy C., go ahead.
I know you've been really busy on important stuff. Did you happen to send out the link for the boot camp from Thursday, since I had to miss it?
Ryan's going to send it out right after the webinar.
And then I'm going to miss tomorrow because I'm working the elections.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. So,
well, tomorrow's going to be a trade alert for boot camp.
I'll try and take a
little break we got from Japan. So
Yeah,
Look for
I'll try.
Speculative Trade Alert to come out tomorrow morning with some
Okay.
content to study.
Okay,
And
I'll
then
try
Thursday
and
will be our next live training session, which will be recorded.
I'll try and take a break around that time so I can take a look at it.
It'll be easy to place.
One quick little question. That link I sent you to, maybe it's a conspiracy theory on the World Bank and them not wanting a pandemic to be suggested because it wipes out that
Bonds.
fund.
Yeah, I need to study that. I've seen that. I haven't read it yet, though.
Okay, just curious. I know you're busy. Too much going on.
Yeah, no, I study as much as I can, so I do want to read into that for sure.
And I have friends that I was with this week from Singapore. It's unique.
What did they say?
It's unique because in Singapore, if you are called and told you're on quarantine and you leave your place, it's $1,000 fine.
Well, it's a lot better than China. So what they're doing in China is they put a little note on your door and you can grab that note. They give you one every 72 hours in the worst cities that are the most risky. And you take your note and you're allowed to go get groceries, go back in, but they take the note away and then you're stuck in your house. And if you're caught outside of your house without the note, then you get thrown into quarantine, which is basically, obviously, a death sentence because you're going to be in an area with a bunch of infected people.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, thanks, Kathy, for the info there. That was awesome. And Gary, TD Ameritrade will actually send you a link that'll get you a gift card for signing up. Okay, let's see here. I wouldn't know if I would just keep trying to place the trade, Gary. Because if Robinhood's or servers are down, they should potentially come back up.
Oh, Gary, I've got a good tip for you. So cancel the order, place it again. Wait 5 minutes. If it doesn't fill, cancel the order, place it again. If the prices are moving around, it can get difficult.
Nice. Yeah. Great idea, Jason. Let's see here. Jim Will said, thanks, Jason and Dean. We'll send Dean an email this evening. Okay, with some questions. Okay, cool. Sounds good, Jim. Look forward to it. And hey, Jason, did you want to go ahead and just pull up the testimonial screen real quick? We'll kind of close out by spending some time with our trials here. Now that we kind of went through everything, and just real quick, guys, any last questions at all from anyone that's a client or that's on a trial? We'd love to help you.
Okay, guys, what I'm just looking at now is our options page. If you go to any email, there's always an upgrade button, so you can go order online at any time. Also, you have a chat feature, which connects to Dean. Now, when Dean's on a call, I usually will hop on there. So you can either talk to Dean or I live chat with that if you don't want to do a phone call. Very handy. Karen, she's always on our. There's Murray. So these are real people. You guys are talking to him. That's Donald.
But that's not my face.
Not real photos. We're using different photos. And
Thank you.
Yeah. We haven't had anyone that's submitted an actual picture yet. So we're happy to put you on there, guys.
And that does look like Murray. I've FaceTimed Murray before. Murray's better looking than that guy, though.
I hope so.
Hey, we need pictures of you guys first, We need to see what your faces look like.
I'm gonna have to switch out Karen's before she hunts me down. Jeez.
My wife told me I was a huge upgrade.
So who wants Brad Pitt? I'll put that one on first.
So yeah, guys, trials. This is literally the people interacting as Jason's scrolling over these live testimonials. So they're in here laughing because we use a stock picture. We don't use their real picture. But once again, if you guys do want to send a real picture, we'll put it up. Happy to do it. We just figured the stock would be better for privacy and that type of stuff. But if you guys want to send us a real picture, we're happy to put that up as well.
Okay, guys, so we basically have 4 programs designed for different investors. Option 1, buy and hold, no options. When things are rainbows and ponies, that one outperforms. It takes the least work. It's very passive. When times are not quite right, you're going to wish you had the options. This is good for investors with less than 30 grand and is our cheapest option. Option 2, we do the Monday, Wednesday, Friday webinars. That's what you get during your free trial. It comes in at $2,000 a year. And you need $30,000 to follow it because we do need to purchase lots of 100 shares of the SPY. It's a great program and it does the trick all on its own. But it's going to have more volatility than our best option, which does require $75,000 in capital to build this portfolio. We're going to put half your assets into bonds and gold, and again, protect those with options. This one, you get Tuesday off, but you're going to be trading Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we're adding in the trade alerts for the TLT, GDX, and emerging markets on Thursday. Finally, if you want even more fun and education, plus some more speculative trades, which we will have one tomorrow, we have a boot camp. The boot camp is not one that ends. You're in this for life. Every Tuesday, you get either content to study plus a trade, if I see a good trading opportunity. And then on Thursdays, we do a educational webinar. My goal is to teach you everything I know, or at least summarize it so that you can get the cheat guide to get the same results and be able to really understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. So that's a separate program. And what's nice is a lot of people on our program, they start off slow and they work their way up. I don't know what the percentage is, but a very high percentage of people end up buying everything and then eventually getting a lifetime deal so they don't have an annual subscription. So we'd love to get you in the door for as little as possible, make you some money or save you some losses and build that trust.
Excellent, Jason. And another thing, guys, that we've started to do here too is we do have a referral program. So if any of you all want to refer, loved ones, family members over to us, they do end up becoming a client. We will absolutely send you a Amazon gift card. Okay, and just depends on what level they come on with us. It'll be a really nice gift card for you all. So it's just a really nice way to kind of increase our referral business. And that's been a huge part of our business, guys. And I want to drive that as much as possible. So just know that you are incentivized, and depending on the level, it'll be anywhere from $100 up to $1,000. Okay, so please, definitely. I know a lot of our members have referred us to their friends, their loved ones. Thank you, guys. We absolutely appreciate that. Keep them coming, and we do have a reward system in place at this point to take care of you guys for doing so. So, absolutely love doing that. It's fun, and heck, it's Amazon. You can always find something on there that you could use, right? Let's see here. Okay. Anything else, guys? Any other questions?
Yes. Question.
Hey, Murray.
What will cause you to issue some options on GDX?
Nice question, Murray. Jason, I'll let you take that one, bud. Hey, Jason. Murray had a question about adding options to GDX. I wonder if he lost his audio. Maybe it did. Hey, Jason, are you there, bud? Murray had a question about GDX options.
Oh, sorry, I just got back. I had to step away for a second. What was the question?
What will cause you to start issuing options on GDX?
Nothing. No. Yeah. So why did we have a pullback in GDX and some volatility? I didn't see that coming. Otherwise, I would have bought a put. So certainly could have, and should have. What do I think is the cause? I believe Japan is trying to incentivize stock purchase.
what will cause you to start issuing options on GX?
Well, if I think we're going to lose money, I will buy puts. And if I think we're going to miss out on money, I'll buy calls. So we had a pullback in GDX that did take a little bit of our profit out of February for the Pro. So we still had a nice return in February for Pro. What do I think is causing the volatility? Will it continue? That's really the question. So I need to put more attention into that. Big picture, I think GDX is going to triple. So I'm not as concerned or paying as much attention to it as I am the S&P 500. So yeah, I will definitely, you know, my last bonus trade for boot camp was a play on the spot silver. So my thoughts are that gold and silver are going up. So I'll definitely consider whether we need downside protection. But my assumption is that the bond market's going to have a huge flood of money and get perfectly priced. And then gold and gold miners will be rewarded next. So we're a little ahead of the game. And I believe Japan, I believe a lot of people got wiped out last week and had to liquidate just all stocks, whether it was, you know, people treat gold stocks as though they're the same as something like, you know, a normal company that sells like a widget. But gold miners aren't selling your typical widget that just your consumers use and consume. You know, gold miners are digging up that old barbellic relic, which rarely in history is necessarily a great business model. And so my expectation again is that bond market gets priced perfectly first, spot gold goes up second, and then gold miners come raging in third. So I would be very unlikely to sell any calls against GDX, but perhaps I should have been a little more precautious with some puts to protect downside volatility. So I'll hopefully have more time to worry about that position. But in the long run, unless there's nothing short of a miracle, I see GDX going up substantially from here. And I'm not talking 10 or 20%. More like 100 or 200%. Now, again, if rainbows and ponies, then we got to worry about our gold position. But right now, we just don't have rainbows and ponies. We have sick people dying everywhere. So perhaps some people had to liquidate their entire portfolios. I think Japan wants to incentivize / trick investors that it's not smart to buy gold and bonds. They want everybody to buy stocks so they can single-handedly sell some gold and some bonds. They're the biggest treasury holder now. So sure, they can make it look like it's a bad time to have gold, bad time to have bonds, at least for a short order, and make it look like it's a good time to buy the dip in stocks, which they did. They are doing. Do I think that will last? Well, no, because here's what you got to remember. Let's look at the Fed. It's one thing if 1% of the world sells their assets at the same time. Okay, so here's all the money that the Fed's printed. So the amount of money that the Fed has in their balance sheet is about just under 1/10 of the value of the US stock market, which is 32 trillion. Okay, so if there's a panic and everybody's selling their stocks, let's just say 10% of stocks want to sell at the same time, that'll cost $3 trillion to keep the market alive at the current price. Now, of course, the value of the stock market's going to go down if that many people sold at once, but let's just say we wanted to keep it, say we just want to keep the SPY at 300 and take out 10% of the scaredy cats. That's going to cost $3 trillion. Well, where's all that money going to come from? $3 trillion. So during the heyday of quantitative easing, we're printing 100 billion a month, not 3 trillion a month. Okay, well, they're going to cut rates. Well, that's great, but that only incentivizes lending. That doesn't give the Fed the right to buy stocks. The Fed can't even buy stocks. All the Fed can do is buy treasuries. They can do repo, which helps the banks loan money. Somebody's got to take the risk. Who wants to take the risk on the S&P 500? That's the big question. And who's going to want to take that risk if we think that we're going to have to shut down schools, potentially slow down commerce? So it's just too much money. It's just way too much money. If we have a panic, 50% crash is bare bone minimum. Will we have a crash? Absolutely. I don't know that yet. I'm concerned we might. So right now, highly confident with our current setup to own the TLT with downside put protection for our pro members with bulk of our assets, to have a lot of cash on hand. And for our basic program where we're just trading the SPY, we got you in cash. We can't wait to buy the SPY. I love the SPY. This whole product was developed specifically to take advantage of the SPY. It's a great ETF. It's the best. Just not if we get 1%, 2%, even up to 10% of the population who owns equities selling at once. There's no way all the money in China couldn't save the stock market if that happened. So that's the big picture here is if you get a panic and you get just 10% of the market to sell at one time, that's $3 trillion.
Nice,
So they're
Jason.
not going to do that. They're just not going to do it. They'll let it crash. They'll do what they always do. They'll let the banks flip their bonds for a big profit. Then they'll do QE, and then the banks will buy up the stock market at a very low rate. So if we get a big crash, we're going to make so much money simply buying the SPY at a big discount. So I'm looking forward to it. I would love to see a stock crash because I'm going to make you guys more money with less risk than you could dream of. Trying to play it right now is a fool's errand. So safe play right now are TLT call options. We've talked about the devil's advocate, what could be bad for TLT. A number of things could be. But it's a lot less risky to play the bond market when China's shut down than to bet everything's okay and bet on the stock market.
Very nice, Jason. Phenomenal presentation there, bud. Hey, can you real quick, Jason, just pull up the coaching link, and every person that's on a trial, I'm going to direct your attention here. Okay, go to the chat box. There's 2 links in there. Okay. And just want to let you all know just one more time really quick, and you could have came in late to the webinar, but my name is Dean Gallagher, investment consultant and partner with Portfolio Builder. One of the really neat things that we offer you during your free trial is a coaching call with me. Okay. I've been invested for over 16 years and love talking about investments and helping clients. You can click on the link that's in the chat, guys, to reserve my time to connect. Okay, that time is filling up quickly. So make sure if you're on a trial, click on that coaching link and go ahead and set up a time to connect over the phone. Would love to just learn more about you. Okay, see what your goals are, see what has worked for you in the past, see what hasn't, and just help you get in the safest manner possible, guys. And so just click on that link, make sure to reserve that time. Mondays is the best day to reserve the time, guys. A lot of, Thursday, Friday last week, I literally, I still have hundreds of calls to return. So please just, the easiest thing for us to connect is just go to that page, reserve that time now. Okay. And also click on that testimonials page, guys. Literally go through all of the audio on there. You're going to hear our client base talk about, exactly what has happened with them, why they like the program, okay, why they like what we do for them. And just truly encourage you to do that. And I do have the approval from over 30 of our clients to connect with potential customers if you do just want to hear it from them and not just from me. Okay, and I understand that, right? But please just let me know that when you note in the call. More than happy to put you on, with any of the 30 plus people that I have the approval to do that with. Okay. And it's fun. You kind of get to know the community before you get started. So definitely book that coaching call, guys, and just put a note in there that you want to hear from another one of our clients. And guys, we have clients following the pro system with, 300,000 up and, up to and well over $4 million. So please feel free to just jump in there and book that. Certainly look forward to learning more about you. Learning more about your financial ecosystem and kind of seeing what product set might work best for you. Okay. And look forward to that conversation. So, Jason, with that, I'm actually behind on a call I need to make here. So I'm going to let you go ahead and close it out. But thank you all for your time very, very much. We truly appreciate it, guys. And we look forward to helping you and your family protect your hard-earned nest egg in the safest manner possible. So thank you very much. And just real quick, one more time, my cell phone number is 505-322-7515. Truly appreciate your time to join us here today, folks.
Thank you, guys. We'll see everybody on Wednesday for our next webinar. And again, if you do want to get the trade alert tomorrow for the boot camp, I'm going to give a speculative high-risk trade betting on a stock crash. So you'll see how I would do that. Okay, thank you so much. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Karen.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, team.